welcome back to my channel and to today's video where I am going to be focusing on burgundy wool coats. So here I've got a little edit of what's currently available on the high street, and I'm just going to be trying each one on and giving you guys some feedback. As I've mentioned in some of my recent content for autumn winter, burgundy is a very big colour trend for this season. However, as I've also mentioned in recent content, it's a very classic and seasonally appropriate colour, so it's not a one-hit wonder trend, if you like. So if it is something that you're looking at investing in or a colour that you're looking to add into your wardrobe, it won't be wasted. Right, okay, so I'm starting off with coat number 1. This is from Mango. It's $139.99. And whilst it comes in burgundy, it does also come in 3 other colours, so 4 colours in total. Now, fun fact about this coat, I actually had a version of this coat from last autumn-winter season, and I loved that so much that I had a feeling they would bring out a similar style this season, and it is almost identical, but in some new colourways, and I'm really happy that they brought out burgundy. The minute I saw it, it was an immediate purchase. So when it comes to style, this is an unlined style, which I've mentioned before over the years is definitely my preferred kind of coat. Now this is also a really good coat because of its shape for any chunkier knitwear. So any knitwear like a lot of COS cashmere that has a little bit more of like a batwing sleeve or that is quite thick and chunky. This is the perfect shape of coat. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this specific one, but if you are looking for a coat to wear over chunky knits, look for this kind of shape. So it's kind of like a cocoon shape. Doesn't matter if it's single-breasted or double-breasted, but what you're looking for is dropped sleeves. The drop sleeves mean that you don't necessarily have that fitted part underneath your armpit, and so therefore you have a little bit more room to play with when it comes to those thicker knits. Right, now when it comes to fabric composition, as I mentioned at the top of the video, these are all wool coats. That's not to say that they're all 100% wool. The majority of them are a wool blend. This one in particular has a 51% recycled wool content in there. And one thing I will say, given the price, especially of the majority of Mango coats, Mango is one of those brands, whether you're buying new, whether you're buying, we've got discount season coming up, or whether you are buying pre-loved, because that's another way that you can get a real good bargain and you can get more for your money, especially when it comes to outerwear. Mango is a really good brand to look out for. Always check the fabric composition, bear in mind, but they do offer some quite high wool content coats, and I think they're just really good value for money. Moving on to coat number 2, and this one is from Arket. It's beautiful. Now it is a higher price point than the first one, it's £269, but it does have a much higher wool content with 80% wool. Now this coat is the opposite of the first one from Mango that I shared. This is actually the longest coat that I'll be sharing with you guys in today's video. So for any taller ladies out there, this is definitely one to consider because it's a really, really good length, especially as a winter coat where you want them to be a lot longer. Of course, as I always mention, that will depend very much on where you live in the world. If you live somewhere where there's super cold temperatures, you're going to want a much more winter appropriate coat. But for city living and kind of milder temperatures like what we have, this is a really great option. Now, when it comes to style, this one is also double-breasted, although for some reason on the website it calls it single-breasted. It's not. It does flap over and then buttons up in a single line here on the left-hand side. We've got a belt for defining the waist area as well, but the feature that I like about this one the most is that it's got this really sort of structured funnel collar. Now I say structured, this is another unlined style, so this is a double-faced fabric. I always find Arket is a little bit more premium. It's kind of a similar line to COS, and I do have one from COS coming up. But they do tend to do a lot of double-faced fabrics. So whilst it doesn't have a sort of stiff structure to it. When this collar is buttoned up, it will stay as it is. And I think this is really good, especially for when you get those wind chill days. And I know you can wear a scarf, but it's always nice to be able to, I don't know, bundle up in a coat and really wrap yourself up in it. And that's why I really like this sort of high neckline on this. It's quite unusual as well. You don't see a lot of coats with this type of neckline. And you can unbutton it, you can wear it in slightly different ways, so you can leave it with one button and have a little bit of a drape hanging down at the front. You can unbutton it entirely, you can unbutton the entire coat and have it to drape nicely. And again, because it is that double-faced unlined fabric, it has that really nice fluid movement to it as you walk. Right, moving on to coat number 3 now, and this one is from Marks and Spencer, and it comes in at £100. So this is the lowest price pointed coat that I have to share with you guys today. £100, relatively reasonable price, I think, for buying a new coat. However, it is reflective of the wool content. So the fabric composition of this coat is only 22% wool, and then a mix of other fibres in there, predominantly artificial. Now, I wanted to share this one, because I liked the look of it when I saw it online, and I just thought, you know what, let's get a Marks and Sparks in there. But also, just because not everyone can wear high wool content. 22% wool may even be too high for you if you have some sort of intolerance to natural fibres like wool, in which case you may need to stick to the more synthetic fibres. Now, I will say that you can feel that low wool content in the fabric. The fabric feels a lot coarser, and when I always do this sort of rub test between my fingers, and you can feel that sort of staticky, plasticky feel. It doesn't feel super cheap. It's still a really nicely made coat, don't get me wrong, but you can definitely feel, in comparison to the other coats that I've got on the rail, that there is a little bit more of a staticky and a much coarser feel to the fabric. Now, this is the first lined coat that I will be sharing with you today, so it doesn't have that double-faced fabric and it does have more of a structure to it. Now, unfortunately, the lining is 100% polyester, which is not something that I would personally prefer, not something that I would buy unless the coat was really special, because polyester is, in essence, plastic. But again, that might be beneficial to those of you who do have maybe sensitive skin or some sort of intolerance to natural fibres. Now, one thing that I do really like about this coat, with it being a tailored style, is that actually they haven't gone too crazy with the shoulder pads. They're quite subtle. They're padded enough to give you that structure that you need in a tailored coat that sort of has this style to it, but they're not so crazy. So if you have broader shoulders, these aren't going to be the sort of shoulder pads that are really going to emphasize that. But if you have a narrower shoulder, they are going to give you just that little bit of definition that you need. Right, moving on to my next coat, and this one is from Zara, and this is priced at £109. The wool content in this one is 49%. Now, the first thing that I will mention with regards to the feel of the fabric is that it actually feels quite thin, and this is a lined style, so this isn't one of those double-faced styles. This one is lined, but it does feel quite thin, and in a similar way to the Marks and Spencer coat, the fabric does feel a little bit more coarse in comparison to some of the others. Now, when it comes to style, this one is an oversized fit, and it's another sort of cocoony shaped coat. So it has those drop sleeves. It's very similar to the first one from Mango. However, the first one from Mango was double breasted. This is single breasted, and this one is lined, whereas that one was unlined. But it does still have that sort of slouchy, more sort of rounded vibe to it. So again, if you are looking for a coat to go over some chunkier fitting knitwear, then this is another really good option to consider. And one final thing I will mention is with regards to colour, and this applies not just to this coat, but to all of these coats, to all coats in general, to all burgundy, to all colours in general. We don't all see colours in the same way. So the colour of this may look completely different to me through my eyes. in comparison to someone else. And also, these are all just colours that the retailers have called burgundy, so all of these coats. Different fibres also reflect colours in different ways, so you may very well get the exact same shade of burgundy, but on two different garments, they look like two different colours. So for anyone that maybe thinks some of these are not traditional burgundy, it is a scale and it is subjective. Right, my next coat is from COS. If you are a regular viewer over here on my channel, this won't be the first time that you've seen this coat, because this featured in my most recent COS try on, which was a focus on purely outerwear and their knitwear. And this comes in at £249. The wool content in here is 60% responsible wool standard certified wool, blended with 40% Tencel, which is a brand of lyocell. Now, this is the only wrap coat, belted coat. Some people think they look a little bit like dressing gowns. I can completely understand that point of view, but I love a wrap coat because, as I mentioned with regards to the Arket coat with the big high neck, I feel like it's one of those coats that you can wrap and really bundle up in, like a dressing gown. So I can see it, So this is another double-faced style, so completely unlined. Just to reiterate what double-faced means for those of you that may have missed it, or maybe you just don't know, it's absolutely fine. Double-faced basically means there are two pieces of fabric, wool fabric in this instance, that are bonded together so that both sides of the fabric have an outer finish, if you will. So this is something that a lot of luxury brands do, and that's why I appreciate that slightly more higher end high street brands like Arket, COS, Massimo Dutti is another brand that does a lot of double-faced fabrics. That's why they sort of integrate those into their collections, because they are higher price pointed and they are trying to take a little bit of that luxury finish into their garments. So once again, it has the fluid movement to it, especially if you leave it open. I love when I leave this open and it just sort of trails behind me in the breeze. It's just, oh, I love a fluid movement. I know you've heard me say that a million times before, but it is just my personal preference. Now, there is one little feature on this coat which I believe I mentioned in the COS try-on video, and that is the lapel. Because unlike a lot of wrap coats, which are this very similar style, this one does have a little button on it. I'm trying to find it. Okay, so there's the buttonhole, and then it's under here so that you can do it up a little bit higher, because sometimes with a wrap coat you would need to wrap it yourself quite high up, whereas this one does have this little button feature, so you don't have to be as exaggerated with your wrapping and your belting, but you can just raise that lapel and sort of button it up a little bit higher, so then when you're wearing a nice cozy scarf you've got a little bit more added protection against any wind chill. Right, on to my next coat, and this one is from the British brand Jigsaw, and this comes in at £389. So this is the highest price pointed coat that I have to share with you guys today, but it is 100% wool. Now this coat might look quite similar to you guys, shape, style, brand, because I've actually had 3 of these coats in the past in various different colours, and I absolutely love them. Jigsaw make a very, very nice piece of outerwear. So if you are trying to look for a bit of a bargain, we've obviously got discount season coming up, but also Jigsaw is a brand that I highly recommend you look at when you are shopping pre-loved. Because if you could get one of these coats at a fraction of the price pre-loved, you are set. They are excellent quality, really beautiful fabric. It's like a brushed wool. By no means is it brushed like my jumper that's quite fuzzy, but it just has this beautiful, soft smoothness to it. The quality of them is just, it's really beautiful. I would highly recommend. Now, when it comes to the style of this coat, the name of it is City Maxi Coat, if I remember correctly. So it is another longer style, definitely better for those of you taller ladies out there if you do want more of a longer fitting length rather than something that's either just below the knee or maybe just over the knee. But it is a smarter, more tailored style. So as you can see, just peeping through, it is a lined style. And this one is not very accommodating. And I say this from experience when it comes to chunkier knitwear. So a little bit of size advice on this one would actually be to size up, because if you are wearing thicker items underneath, it doesn't necessarily have to be thick knitwear, but if you're wearing layers, if you're wearing maybe a thermal underneath and then a thinner cashmere on the top, the area that I sometimes struggle with is the arms, because it is more of a tailored style, so you don't have that same volume in there. So if you do just want that little bit of extra space so you can move about and feel a little bit more comfortable with your layers on underneath, then this would definitely need to be sized up in just by one size. And again, if you're looking to wear this with chunkier knits, it's really not the best option. Certainly not if you've got anything with a slight batwing or a slight drop sleeve, because this does not have that style to it. Okay, moving on. This one is from John Lewis, and this comes in at £149. Quite heavy, this one, actually. So this is another lined style. It's double-breasted. Again, it could be a slightly smarter option, something you could wear as part of your workwear wardrobe, but equally as well, something that will work for just day-to-day wear. Now, this has 49% wool as the wool content within this fabric composition. But again, I think I've mentioned this about a couple of the coats. The Marks & Spencer one, which only had the 22% wool, and the Zara one as well, which just felt thinner. This has that same sort of coarser feeling to the fabric. And it's not always dependent on whether something is 100% wool or not. Sometimes it's just the way that the fabric is woven. So for example, I've got that first mango coat here, which is not 100% wool, but it feels so soft because it has slightly more of a brushed texture to it. Whereas this one looks more woven. And that is sometimes a difference that you can get when it comes to the more sort of unlined style coats, which do have that more brushed feel to them, and more structured, lined, double-breasted style, sort of smarter tailored coats like this. Obviously, I'm sharing these with you guys today. You can't actually see them and feel them. So sometimes it is good to just get out there and get in the shops and just have a feel. See if you like the feeling of something, because if you don't like the feel of it on a hanger, you're not going to like the feel of it when it's on your body. Couple of extra details on this one. The lining is 100% polyester, which is a bit of a letdown on this one. Especially because I always see John Lewis as a bit more of like a quality focused brand, and I feel like they've let themselves down with the lining in there. Also, the buttons, to me, look a little bit cheap. Normally when you get a sort of statement colour coat like this, there will be a contrasting button, or perhaps there could be a tortoiseshell effect button. They've gone for essentially a burgundy button, and they are very plasticky and they don't look great. Now, buttons are an easy fix. You can easily swap out a button just by replacing those with something that you prefer. So I will always say don't let buttons put you off 100%, because it is such an easy fix. But I did just want to flag that as well. And then it does also have this little sort of half belt on the back, which is just a nice little feature to have. It has absolutely zero function. It's just an added little detail, a bit of a military detail if you like. Right, there we go. That was my little edit of some wool and wool blend burgundy coats from some of my personal favourite brands on the high street. For those of you that might be looking for a bit of inspiration, maybe you're looking to add a burgundy coat to your wardrobe this season for the many autumn winter seasons that lie ahead. Just to reiterate that all links to these coats, size information, any additional nuggets of information that I think would be useful for you guys, I will pop down below in the description box. But for now, that is it from me. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.